Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Tyler from Podcast Now. This is the Avengers Community Series. Just saw Endgame, unbelievable movie. But I've noticed that there's some confusion online on who is alive and who's dead and this and that. So we're going to be kind of explaining that to you today, just to clear that up. Because there was time travel, so that was obviously confusing. Now, if you don't want spoilers, then this is not the video for you. Come back after you see Avengers Endgame. Absolutely must see. It was what they've done in Endgame. There's not even words. Really, it was magical. It was a cinematic event. It was unbelievable. So you just have to see it for yourself. But anyways, due to time travel, that always makes things a little bit confusing. So we're going to knock it out right from the start. Obviously, the first big death, the biggest death in my opinion of all, is Tony Stark. Now, we did call that on this channel, as well as other things. In fact, we had 6 theories during our Avengers Community Series, and we got 5 out of 6 correct. So that is quite the number of theories that we got correct. It's not the first time. We have quite the track record on this channel. But anyways, Tony Stark did die. He created a legacy. He is the ultimate, in my opinion. He is now the ultimate Marvel superhero. And I don't think there's anybody that will ever top him, and that is what makes it so perfect. He was an imperfect character, and we see that towards the beginning of this movie. And it was beautifully done how they did it. I am Iron Man is his last words. It was sad. I cried. There was a lot of crying happening in the theater. And it was just a heroic death. He really wanted to make sure that what he had would not be lost, and what others had would not be lost. He had to end it. He had to end Thanos and what Thanos would bring. And Thanos changed his plan because it was a past version of Thanos that comes into the present, which is now 2024. It's not 2019. It's 2024. So it was actually a 2014 version of Thanos that comes to the present of 2024, sees what the future version of him would have done, realizes that he was wrong, and what really needs to happen is he just needs to completely erase the entire universe and start over the way that he thinks that the universe should be. So he totally went pure evil. He was the Mad Titan, and he needed to be stopped. And it was just the way that Tony Stark goes out, the funeral, the flowers, but Tony Stark has a heart. It was so perfectly done. And he got his second chance. He was able to marry Pepper Potts. He was able to have a child, Morgan, which he had a dream about, if you recall, in Infinity War. So this is actually his third chance, because he almost died to become Iron Man, and then he survived. He kind of grew up because he didn't like responsibility. He kind of drank. He partied. He was with all these different women, and then he became Iron Man, and he started having all these responsibilities. Had another chance at life. Had a kid. And then he did what he had to do. He had to be that hero. So it was just amazing how they did that. Beautiful. I love that so much. But anyway, so he is dead. Now, Nebula, this is where some people are getting semi-confused. Mainly Gamora is the real confusion. We're going to talk about her next. But Nebula, so obviously, again, Nebula, if you remember, and Gamora were both with Thanos in 2014. That's when Gamora and Nebula were still loyal, in a way, to Thanos. Now, Nebula gets killed. The 2014, that's what I'm going to be calling them by their years. 2014 Nebula faces off against 2014 Gamora and 2024 Nebula in the final battle. And 2024 Nebula kills 2014 Nebula. So the older version of Nebula, the past version of Nebula, is now dead. 2024, Nebula lives on. She is with the Guardians of the Galaxy. She is part of that group, which I like that a lot. Thor is now part of that group. We're going to be talking about that in a totally different video. That's amazing. I love what they're doing with that. Man, Marvel's going to be so different, and I thought I wasn't really going to like it, but I think I'm going to like it a lot. Even with a lot of my favorites kind of gone, there's definitely room for new favorites. That's for sure. And this movie kind of showed that, and it proved it to me, and I'm so glad that it did so well also. But now for Gamora, this is the most confusion because obviously 2018, that's the year that Infinity War takes place. So Gamora in 2018 obviously is killed by Thanos in Vormir to get the Soul Stone. We learn from we learn from Hawkeye in Endgame when Black Widow, unfortunately, and I had the feeling when they got to Vormir, I knew that she was going to do it. But anyways, when Black Widow sacrifices herself to get the Soul Stone and allow Hawkeye to have that Soul Stone to bring back to the present, Hawkeye is kind of discussing with everybody outside that she's gone because Thor's like, well, we could just use the stones and bring her back and all that, and Hawkeye's like, you could basically take it up with Red Skull. That's not how it works. She's gone. Dead is dead. And it was kind of set, a soul for a soul. There's no changing that. So the reason that's important is because it applies directly to Gamora. She's in the same boat. She's dead. 2018, anybody that died other than the snap is permanently dead. And we're going to talk about Loki because he's permanently dead as well. But that doesn't mean there might not be a different version. So 2018 Gamora, dead. She's dead, gone. 2014 Gamora is now in the present, 2024. She's being searched by Peter right at the end of the movie, at the end of Endgame, and it seems like the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie is going to be finding Gamora. She has no idea who he is. She even says to Nebula, "This is who I'm with," and Nebula jokes and says it's either him or a tree. So Gamora has no idea who Peter is. That's because this is not our Gamora. This is the 2014 Gamora who was sort of still with Thanos, but she always kind of wanted to leave him. So she leaves him, and she trusts our 2024 Nebula. But during the final battle, she leaves off screen. Gamora does. So 2018 Gamora, dead. 2014 Gamora, alive in 2024. Now for Loki. Loki in 2012, the first Avengers movie, he is our 2018 and I'm calling the years, but Thor Ragnarok, that Loki is the same Loki as that we've seen in all the other movies. Thor 1, Thor 2, Avengers, all of that. That's our Loki. That was our 2018 Loki. Thanos chokes him to death in Infinity War. He is dead. He is permanently dead. But, as the Ancient One explained to Bruce Banner in 2012, back in time, when they go back in time to the events of Avengers, the first Avengers movie, the Ancient One explains that if you were to take one of these stones and change it, it would create a new timeline. And that's why Bruce is like, well, it's okay, we'll just bring all of them back to their respective times. But here's the thing. They mess up. Ant-Man and Stark mess up. They lose the Tesseract, and Loki gets it, and he leaves with it, which is the Space Stone. So he leaves with it. That is then why Tony Stark and Steve Rogers go back to the 1970s, because he knows that it's in one of the S.H.I.E.L.D. facilities. So that means that Loki in 2012, I'm calling it 2012B, because Loki, things changed, because we know in 2012, our 2012, which is 2012A, Loki at the end of Avengers goes back to Asgard with Thor. Now that doesn't happen because Loki is able to get the Tesseract and he teleports away, and they're like, where's Loki? And they don't know. This is a whole new timeline. So that means that in this new timeline, 2012B, 2013B, and so on, this alternate timeline universe essentially means that the events that have taken place this far in these 22 films, right, starting now at 2012B, all of that, all the way to 2024B, which we are not going to see that. Well, we might, I don't know. All of that could be totally different. Thor 3, Thor Ragnarok, might not ever happen in that universe, in that timeline. Okay, if that makes any sense. Because obviously events have changed. Infinity War, the events of Infinity War might never happen. Who knows? Maybe the way that Thanos has to go about getting that Space Stone is totally different. Maybe it changes things. Maybe Loki becomes good before that, and it changes everything. Maybe he tips off the Avengers. We don't know. I assume we'll discover that in the Disney Plus Loki show. So that isn't our Loki, unfortunately. He might be bad. He could end up worse. He could end up good. We don't know what's going to happen. That's not our Loki. Our Loki that I actually really started to like, he's dead. Our 2018 Loki, dead. New timeline, 2012B and on Loki, could be dead, could be alive. There's no way to know. We'll find out in the Loki Disney Plus show. So that's really the biggest list. And then, like I mentioned, obviously, Black Widow, she's permanently dead. She cannot come back. They got the Soul Stone. Tony, he did the snap himself. That's what ultimately killed him. He willed Thanos and his entire army to be gone. The stone has been used. Time has moved on. And there's no... They brought Steve Rogers takes the stones, brings them all back to their respective timelines, and or time periods, I should say. Sorry. So yeah, there's no changing it. Now, what's interesting for me, my biggest question is, and this is the only loose end, and we might have a video on this. How did Steve how did he bring the Soul Stone back to Vormir? Because I almost hope that we get a Captain America Disney Plus, even like a 3-part mini-series event, and we probably will talk about this separately, because he would meet Red Skull again, and he'd be like, oh, this is where you went? And it would be very cool to see that happen. And it wouldn't be a film event. And obviously Captain America's not done. He lived his life. He doesn't return. So Captain America's not dead. We know he's alive. He technically, Steve Rogers, not Captain America, new Captain America is Falcon. But Steve Rogers technically could be, if they ever wanted to bring him in, he could be in future Marvel movies. I don't see that happening. We'll probably have a video on that as to why that won't happen. However, maybe he can pop in one of the Disney Plus shows because it's way less time. It's not like a big movie. It's a lot shorter. He can pop in for a few minutes for an episode or whatever, and leave. He might even be in the Falcon Winter Soldier show. He might be in an episode or two. So Steve Rogers not dead. He's just an older man. Definitely in his hundreds by now. But he might live because he's a super soldier. He might live for many more years. So it's interesting how they ended that character. It's a ending, but it's kind of an open ending, which I like that a lot. But yeah, so how he brought the Soul Stone back to Vormir, not sure. Hopefully we get, maybe just from the Russo brothers, we'll get some kind of explanation as to how that went. Can you even return the Soul Stone? Because once you have it, you have it. It's not like you bring it back and the soul's back. Because we know Black Widow's not back. They would have showed that essentially in that epilogue type ending, like where they're showing, here's where they are now. So she's not back. She's dead, which that also needed to happen. This is the Endgame. We knew there was consequences. It's sad. I actually cried. I didn't really ever care for Black Widow, and this movie made me realize that I've actually cared. I just didn't know that I did. But anyways, that's the entire list of who's dead, who's alive. Basically, if I didn't say that you're dead, if I didn't say the characters are dead, that means that they're alive. Thanos dead, his entire army dead. Yeah, everybody else, anybody that was snapped in Infinity War, they're all back. Hulk's still around, Hawkeye's still around. Again, Steve Rogers, he's still around, just older. I think that's it, honestly. Thor, obviously, still fat, but he's still around. That's it. Out of the original 6, 4 survived, 2 didn't. So that is our ending explained, who's dead, who's alive video. Again, there'll be many more Avengers Community Series videos talking about Avengers Endgame, a lot of different topics. Definitely stay tuned to Podcast Now. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Please like this video. Leave your comments as to what you thought of Avengers Endgame, and I will see you guys next time.